So I read Stephen Guise's Elastic Habits over the last couple days. I'm a pretty big habits nerd, and I was curious about his take on things. I haven't read the first book, Mini Habits, though I got the impression that he gives us the most important highlights in this book. Maybe reading Mini Habits isn't totally necessary. I'll probably go back and read it another time. He, in this book, suggests like an approach, a structure, where rather than having a single definition of a win related to a habit that you're trying to develop, you actually have 9. So instead of saying, I must run 2 miles every day, you have 1 lap around the track, 4 laps, or 7 laps as your choices for running. And instead of only running, you think of this under the larger rubric of exercise. It can also substitute, say, push-ups and dancing, each with their 3 levels. And so this gives you indoor options for bad weather days. It gives you quick options for busy days. And it also allows you to amp up your activity when you have, more time or more energy or, more sun. But the point is that every day has an opportunity for a win. And because you have 9 choices, you're bound to be able to do one of them, even if it's just, dancing to one song. That's a win. And wins like that build momentum, and momentum leads you to your goals, the theory goes. I'll make a note here that elastic habit structure that Guise proposes here does build on the mini habits concept. The low level in the 9 option grid is mini. It should be so easy that you can't find an excuse for not skipping it. It's pretty likely that you can find a tiny slice of the day to dance to one song, or maybe you can write in your journal for like 3 sentences, or you can meditate for like 1 minute. So you have a really mini baseline, and above that is what he calls the plus level, and then there's elite. According to Guise, setting up a rigid habit plan can be kind of a recipe for failure, because rigid expectations don't take into account, life's ups and downs and sidewayses. You can't adjust it. It becomes all or nothing, and too often that leads to nothing. With inflexibility, you can bend and bounce back rather than break. You can flex down to a mini goal or flex up to an elite goal with no problem. Fundamentally, he's going after a mindset shift here. He doesn't say it outright, but the implication is that while the elite behaviors have more value in his, overly complicated scoring system, you're supposed to think of them all as equally. All 9 of them are all wins. He does insist that once you choose your 9 behavior habits matrix, your 3 different choices at 3 different levels, once you get started, that you must track your progress. He says the momentum gained is in the tracking. He actually has a whole chapter on how to track, and even has products on his website that you can buy to help yourself track. I won't take the time to go into all that tracking and scoring here. It is a bit extra in my point of view, but I can see his point. Tracking can give you dopamine hits, you check things off or give yourself a star, yay, win, and that's helpful in gaining momentum. Celebrating your wins, I always say that that's a great idea. And the scoring allows you to see the arc of your progress across the different kinds of what he calls win conditions, the 9 options you give yourself. That can be useful for making tweaks and, kind of seeing where you're headed. So in my view, the tracking seems, like a useful feedback for that future tweaking. And since changing things up is, what we're about in Elastic Habits, you may want to make changes to your underlying matrix after, reflecting, and that reflection may be easier to do when you have some data. For example, if you consistently never use one of your win conditions, maybe it's time to substitute another option. I like that he does address what it should feel like to pursue your goals. He says, when a goal pursuit feels right, it means A, you're giving yourself abundant, empowering freedom, which makes challenges exciting. B, you love the process as much or more as the results. And C, you're setting yourself up for a win now and later. In the same section, he speaks to how it shouldn't feel. If it feels restrictive, pointless, overwhelming, burdensome, or lifeless, then you're probably not giving yourself enough freedom. You're only doing it for the result, and you're not playing for your own team. by which he means that you're taking on outside direction instead of working off of internally motivated goals. I think this last piece is an important one. Yes, of course, sometimes, we have to just do stuff because we have to get it done. But when it comes to self-care and most self-improvement, you get to call the shots. There's so many messages that we have telling us what to do all the time. But when it comes to this kind of stuff where you're just trying to, kind of make your life better, it really is up to you. Really. Really. Trust. So trust is an interesting part of what Guise proposes here. With this elastic system, you should be able to trust yourself. Since you're the one designing the system, you can rely on yourself to change it up for your needs. Changing it is the system, in fact. So your inner guide becomes something you can rely on, which means that you can, let go of some of the messages you get from media and advertising and such, and perhaps let go of some of the nonsense your inner critic tries to peddle at you too. And, there's another aspect of trust here. Because there are super many habits available every day, you should be able to trust yourself to do them every day. A lot of the negative self-talk that drags us down, in my experience, it kind of co-opts any piece of evidence that it can find and turns it into a big story about why we're lazy bums that don't do anything that we said we would do. Ugh. Of course, ultimately that voice is utter nonsense. But Guise here is giving us an opportunity to shut up that inner critic, that inner voice that drags us down. It can't yell us about not doing what we said we would do if we actually do it. And we are able to do it because it is designed in an elastic way that allows for the inevitable and variety and, maybe even the chaos that life brings. After reading, but before experimenting and really trying it on myself, I do already have a few critiques. One, he doesn't address very deeply how to choose which habit behaviors you want to work on. I, of course, have a lot to say about this, but, that's probably for another video. Two, while he does mention that it may take some time to get in the rhythm of things, he doesn't take much space in the book to discuss how to tweak the overall process once you're in it. I have even more to say about this, definitely for another video. Three, he doesn't distinguish between habits that will never end versus habits that get you to a goal, like daily writing to get yourself to write a book. Actually, this lack of distinction was actually kind of enlightening for me because I realized that I mostly think about habits as ongoing self-care behaviors that have no end goal. But in actuality, the elastic habit structure is really good to get yourself to do something with a specific end goal in mind. Like, for example, I'm certain he used this structure to write the book itself. And guess what? I might very well be using this to film, edit, and post some videos I said I would make. Fourth critique. He tells you only to work on 3 habits at a time, but he doesn't tell you how to switch things up. Doesn't a habit become, so ingrained at some point that you can stop tracking it and plug in another one? I don't have to remind myself to brush and floss every morning. I just do it. So, maybe I had to train myself at some point, but I didn't anymore. Or, maybe they lose their relevancy. Like maybe, I've climbed Kilimanjaro. So, now what? Maybe he addresses this in Mini Habits? I don't know. Like I said, I haven't read it yet. Critique 5. I doubt this elastic habits approach works for those behaviors that are desired habits but are not specifically or easily measurable. For example, what if you wanted to get better at the habit of maintaining good posture at your desk? Or, say writing down your spending if you're money tracking at the moment of purchase. These require in-the-moment triggers that are better addressed by maybe Charles Duhigg, James Clear, or maybe even Chris Bailey. Wow. 4 male habit authors that I've been reading. Where are my lady habit authors at? Give me a shout! Critique 6. Guise insists that these habit behaviors must be done every day. So while the various options give you chances to do what he calls active rest or recovery when you're working in the mini level, it doesn't really allow for periodic habits that really don't make sense to do every day. For example, I batch cook for the whole week on the weekend, so I wouldn't be able to use a system to get me to cook that one time a week. Critique 7 is about scoring. He has a scoring system that is pretty complex, and that complexity may deter some folks or, turn them off after a while. Also about scoring, it gives extra weight to the pro and elite wins, which I think sort of negates the hypothesis that they are all wins to be thought of equally in your mind. Now, since he's all about flexibility, I wonder if he would balk at somebody, putting the variation on the system that gave the same amount of points to all wins. I don't know. Okay, so enough for the critiques. Overall, I love this elastic habits theory, and I'm curious to see it in action. So after I finished reading the book, I decided to do my favorite thing and use myself as a laboratory. I set up my own goal tracker using the principles outlined in the book and on his website. And how did I choose my 3? Well, I have really been enjoying walking every day, and I wanted to continue that, so I'm putting it in kind of almost as a gimme, just because I pretty much know I can do it. But there have been some missed days, so I wanted to help see if this could reduce those and get me really consistent. So in this scenario, I'm going to have his classic 9-option matrix. I have 3 different activities available: walking, plus 2 alternatives if walking doesn't make sense for whatever reason, and 3 different time options. Next, I chose cleaning because, doing the dishes is an important lever in making my life better. When the dishes are done, the kitchen is clear, and when the kitchen is clear, life is more calm without that clutter. And also, it allows me to cook much easier, which allows me to eat better, which allows me to feel better, and, ain't that what life's about? So I'm using dishes and counter clearing as a baseline every day, and then we'll add on top of that house cleaning. In this one, I switched it up from the 9 grid to kind of a stacked approach. So every day, the mini goal is doing the dishes and cleaning the counters. And then on top of that, I can add 5 minutes of cleaning for a plus level win or 10 minutes of cleaning for an elite level win. And my last goal, well, it's working on this channel. I've been stalling on it and I wanted to get going, so here we are. This is actually where the revelation that I can use the Elastic Habits tools to work on a creative project or a work project as opposed to just self-care or self-improvement is great. I can do it with an specific end goal in mind. For this goal, I opted for yet another alternative that Guise provides. He calls it the option pool. Working on a YouTube channel actually has a lot of components, and it doesn't make sense to just, narrow them down to 3 specific tasks. So I made a pool of activities to choose from, and what I did was just set 3 different time options. Hey everybody, Valerie from the future here, just sliding on in to wrap up this video. I actually vlogged my journey through testing Elastic Habits, and there's a fair amount of footage, so I thought I'd split it into 2 videos. I'll post that blog soon, and when I do, I'll be sure to put the link to it in the description box below. And I also will throw in a link to the habit tracker that I made for myself, just in case you want to check it out or maybe use it as a starting place to create your own. Meantime, I would love to hear in the comments below if you think you might try the Elastic Habits system, or maybe you just have some takeaways that you're going to incorporate into your own habits adoption journey. So be sure to come back for part 2, where I go through my Elastic Habits journey and how it actually went. Spoiler, it was pretty good. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.